Hello, my name is Joshua Levy from the North Carolina Department of Commerce, and I appreciate the invitation to speak with you about the Sandhills labor market trends, projections, and opportunities. The Labor and Economic Analysis Division of Commerce has several functions. We collect a lot of labor market data that goes into things like the unemployment rate, jobs numbers that come out on a monthly basis, as well as several other surveys. We do a variety of analysis and research projects, including the longitudinal data system called the Common Follow-up System that we'll talk about in a minute. We do a variety of economic and policy analyses, including creating projections for industry and occupations, as well as some star jobs, which I'll talk about at a later point. And we also have a variety of publications, dashboards, and data tools on our website that is useful for accessing this information. So today we're going to talk about the current state of the labor market in the Sandhills, what that means for job seekers and employers, as well as some opportunities for the future. The current labor market of the 10 counties that make up the Sandhills can be described in several ways. So one question we might have is, has the region recovered all the jobs lost from the pandemic? So the pandemic recession, as you recall, began in really February of 2020. It was a pretty short recession with a quick rebound, at least at the state level. And when we look at the region, we see that, yes, the Sandhills region has recovered all the jobs as of the second quarter in 2023. Just a bit above the previous levels. There are still work to do, as of that point, only 5 of the 10 counties had recovered jobs. And by this point, more of those counties may have. This was the second quarter of 2023, and this data lags by a bit. We can also ask, are people who want to work working? So for the most part, yes. When we look at the unemployment rate for the region as a whole, in the most recently available month in December of 2023, the unemployment rate was 4.1%. This is slightly lower than the 4.3% in the end of December 2019, so right before the pandemic. You can see the peak during the pandemic recession of 7.1% for the region. And the current December rates are really the lowest rate for the region since at least 1990. So very low unemployment. We have all but one counties in the region has lower rates, and the one that is above is really only by 0.1 percentage points. So pretty much return to the 2019 levels. We can also ask, is the region continuing to add jobs? And so here we're going to look at some job openings. And so we can see that since January 2020, job openings jumped quite a bit and are currently about 23% higher than they were at the beginning of the pandemic. And so you can see, although the job openings are still up, they're starting to sort of come down or level off a bit. The number of job seekers in that black line is about 6% lower than it was in pre-pandemic times. So what does this mean for those job seekers that are looking for jobs? Is it easy for them to find jobs? For the most part, yes. So one way we can measure this is looking at job seekers per job opening. When we go back to January 2020, we can see there were just over 2 job seekers per every job opening in the region. That increased to about 2.4 and then has fallen since then. And really for about the last 2 years, it's been pretty steady at about 1.5, 1.6 job seekers per opening. So this is described as a tight labor market, not many job seekers out there for every job opening. What does this mean for employers that are trying to hire in this environment? Is it easy for them to find workers? So in historical terms, no, but it is getting easier. So we've described that tight labor market. It's really primarily due to demographics, right? An aging population, fewer working age people to work. And we know that this differs by the types of jobs. So here we have career clusters, and we can see that the regional total, as I described, is about 2 job seekers per opening over a 2-year period. And you can see that some of these career clusters are harder to hire workers in. So anything in STEM, law and public safety, health science, IT, business, and some are slightly easier than the regional average, including things like construction, arts, etc. When we think about what employers have to do in this environment, we know one thing they're doing is they have to be more competitive. We asked employers in our biennial employer needs survey what kinds of benefits that they had added since the pandemic began. This was in 2021. And we found that several employers were adding things like paid leave, health insurance, child care assistance in order to attract more workers and retain existing workers. We're also currently fielding the survey, and so we'll have some updated information about this. When we turn to the future now, what does this mean? We have roughly modest job growth that's projected through 2030. So we think the region is going to add about 15,000 new jobs from 2021 to 2030. This will really be led by healthcare and social assistance, one of the largest, fastest growing groups. This doesn't include, new project announcements you may hear about in the news. So we know in the last few years, we've had over 2,600 job announcements planned in the region. We have top regional employers in fields like healthcare, manufacturing, retail, public administration, and education. And then within those industries, we want to be able to identify what are some of the promising occupations. So what are the jobs that people are doing within those industries that are expected to grow? And so here we've created a tool based on our projections called the Star Jobs, which is based on the average wage a job pays, plus its growth rate and the number of job openings it will have, both new job openings created as well as replacing existing workers that may be leaving. And so based on this, we've come up with a list of 5-star jobs. We have 2 sub-regions within the Prosperity Zone. So the Fayetteville, Lumberton region, which is about 7 of the counties, and then 3 of the counties are in the Pinehurst, Rockingham sub-region. But they have a lot of things in common in terms of jobs. Here are some of the largest categories of jobs in both of those regions. So we think a lot of health sciences here. We see registered nurses, medical and health services managers, substance abuse and counselors, nurse practitioners. We see a lot of some business. We see some skilled trades, things like electricians and mechanics, as well as software developers, et cetera. We know that we've identified over 60 5-star occupations in the Prosperity Zone. They are, again, 23 of them are in both regions. There's some that are unique to each region. There are 14, they represent 14 of the 16 career clusters. What's interesting about these 5-star jobs is that 80% of them require at least some post-secondary education. So if we look at all the 5-star jobs in that region, we can see that 63% of them will require a bachelor's or above, 12% require associate's degree, 5% some kind of post-secondary non-degree award, and about 20% just require high school. So when we're thinking about opportunities for the region, one opportunity that we see across the state is really to grow employment for those populations that have been historically disadvantaged. In a tight labor market, we need all the workers we can get. So approaching minority, low-income, disabled, justice-involved, opportunity youth are all groups of folks who haven't done as well historically in the labor market, and there may be some slack there. We also would want to focus on aligning regional education to in-demand occupations, and that's what a lot of what we're talking about today will be. We know that there's about 79% of the credentials that are granted in the region align with the with the opening, so there's still some opportunity to grow. This is really gets at the share of degrees and credentials conferred compared to the share of corresponding job openings. Some examples of top areas of misalignment. So health sciences represent about 32% of the total openings in the region, but only 12% of the total credentials. Transportation, distribution, and logistics is about 12% of the total openings, but only about 3% of the total credentials. So these are potentially areas to focus on. NCTower.com is a tool that we've built based on that longitudinal data system I described earlier called the Common Follow-up System. This looks at program outcomes by degree type or by institution for the community colleges and public universities in the state. You can look at the employment and wage outcomes for cohorts of graduates from these programs over time. So that's a good resource to follow up with. And the final thing is that we would encourage people to think about working regionally, which is part of the reason we're having a regional meeting here. So all 10 counties in the region had more than half their residents that commuted out of county for their jobs in 2021, which is the most recently available year. This is up pretty significantly since 2002, when only 5 counties had more than half of their workers leaving to commute. So this really illustrates the fact that people don't just work in their county of residence, they're traveling to work. And so the people that live in your county may be working elsewhere, and conversely, people that work in your county may live elsewhere. And so this is really just a reminder to think about how to work regionally, avoiding the county competition trap, and thinking about trying to broaden job searches, recruitment searches, etc., to a larger geographic area. So when we think about what this means in terms of people, about 60% of the working residents in the Sandhills commuted out of their county, out of their home county. Again, up pretty significantly over the last 20 years. Another tool that I'll mention, nccareers.org, is a tool that brings together a lot of the information that I've just presented in terms of labor market data, also finding out what education and training is required for different programs, and how to get access to those resources. We also produce a career exploration guide based on this, which helps students and job seekers and parents and others find this information. We have a lot of other tools on a site called analytics.ncommerce.com. And we have regional dashboards, we have labor market data, a variety of publications that we also put out that you can also sign up for to receive electronically. And so I encourage people to check out these sites after the meeting. And with that, I'm going to pause and thank you all for giving me the opportunity to present to you. And I hope that this has been informative. Thank you.